Okay, so we are going to be talking about my pick for my top 7 favorite quarterbacks entering the 2022 season. Favorite might not be the right word, but quarterbacks who I perceive to be the best. Now, I already did a whole podcast with Kyle talking about my, we did our rankings of top 32 starting quarterbacks in general. So if you want to check that out, it's on this channel. But, that was our list, and now I want to make my own, kind of talk about my own list and really the top 7, get into a little bit more detail and also make it a little bit more of a bite-sized content. So without further ado, let's get into who I have starting at number 7. Number 7, I have Justin Herbert. There's definitely a subsect of people who believe Herbert is, the next big thing, and I'm not too far behind those people. I think that Herbert is incredible, just so you know what you're looking at. So 7, obviously that's where he ranked. The other 2 numbers, the first number, that is 6, that is going to be where he ranked in terms of PFF grade last year. The number next one over, where he ranked in passer rating next year. So the numbers were, he was a little bit higher in PFF grade, a little bit lower in passer rating. I think passer rating is a bit more of a team stat. The reality is Herbert is incredible, and you could argue his upside is as good as anyone's in football, quite frankly. I mean, the athleticism that he possesses is truly remarkable, and there really isn't too many negatives about his game. We haven't seen him as long, but I mean, the reality is the NFL is loaded with star quarterback talent right now. So the fact that Justin Herbert is a number 7, it just kind of shows like how many good quarterbacks there legitimately are in the NFL right now. Herbert is absolutely one of those great quarterbacks, so he's here at 7. Number 6, Josh Allen. This one will get some comments in the comment section below. But hey, that's what commenters are supposed to do. You're supposed to argue with me when I make lists. That's what we do here. This one, when I did my podcast, this got a little bit of criticism. I suspect it'll get some criticism here as well. You do look at the numbers, though. The numbers weren't as fantastic. 11th in PFF grade, 17th in passer rating. So that stuff was not fantastic last year. The reality is, where Allen was fantastic was in the playoffs last year. He was unreal in the playoffs, and his playoff performance, I think, has kind of elevated him in some people's minds, whereas I think 6 feels about right. That's where, again, you can maybe quibble with it, but it's fair to say, like, Allen had some bad games this year. Like, the Bills lost 6 games last year. I guess 7 if you count the playoffs. So that's not his fault. That's a team stat. But I'm just saying some of those were his fault. The Jacksonville performance was his fault. So he did have some tough games. Now, again, I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen's amazing. We're nitpicking here when it comes to the best of the best. And what I still have been saying for years now is when Josh Allen is on, when he's having a good Josh Allen day, he's better than every single quarterback on this list, every single quarterback who has ever played. I'll take Josh Allen's best performance over anybody else's best performance, but those don't always come. But when they do, see the last 2 times he played the Patriots, like the Bills are just winning when that happens. So that's why he's still at number 6, even though he has had some stinkers as well. Number 5, I have Joe Burrow here. Joe Burrow's advanced statistics, very good. One of those being PFF grade. He was 1st in football, 2nd in passer rating. He was also great at some other stuff, such as, completion percentage over expected was another good one, EPA, all that stuff, which again, no stat is perfect, but those are solid stats, and he was great at all of them. So that's part of what I love about Burrow. I think Burrow was really good last year. Now, again, if you're saying who had the better postseason, Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, I would give the edge to Josh Allen. So because of that, maybe you'll say that I'm being too low on Joe Burrow. Or I'm being too high on Joe Burrow and too low on Josh Allen. I'm sure some people will. But I didn't think that Joe Burrow was... I don't think he played his best 4-game stretch in the postseason. He did some nice things, for sure, but I don't think he played his best 4-game stretch in the postseason. But I do think he was just constantly awesome throughout. And one thing that people aren't talking about enough of is people talk about the offensive line. People talk about his great receiving core. People don't talk enough about how he was having to seemingly do so much of his work starting at a 2nd down and 9 because of all these weird 1st down runs that Zach Taylor just fell in love with. I think that if Zach Taylor really when we saw the Bengals open up the offense and just kind of throw, the Bengals would dominate. And I think that as long as they do that next year, the Bengals could be really good. I'm hoping that's what they do. I think Joe Burrow is absolutely here to stay. I have him as a top 5 quarterback. Number 4, the real hot button issue here, the one that everyone will complain about, some saying too high, some saying too low. Deshaun Watson at number 4. Again, you look at his numbers. The last time we saw him, there's asterisks next to both of those because it wasn't last year, it was the year before. 3rd in PFF grade, 2nd in passer rating. Deshaun Watson if he played on a better team, it would have been an MVP candidate the last we saw of him. Like, he was legitimately great on the football field. Again, the off-the-field stuff is, very much a real thing, but I do think that Deshaun Watson is just one of the best quarterbacks in football. There's so much he can do, and the numbers back that up. Now, maybe you could argue we've only seen one real, dominant year from Watson, and that's maybe, I think a fair argument, but I guess I would say, I think you could probably make the same argument about everyone else behind him other than Josh Allen, who I would still say has had he's had a better, two really good years, but I think that Watson's had the best year out of either of those years is what I would say. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes. And again, worth mentioning, I'm only talking about right now. I'm not talking about for a career. If you give me someone to pick for the next 15 years, I'm going with Mahomes. Mahomes wasn't great last year, though. He just wasn't. I mean, if you watched him game by game, he had some clunkers as well, him like Josh Allen. Now, what I would say about Mahomes is I've seen a bigger sample size of him being the best quarterback in football for several years. And before last year, for that 3-year stretch, he was the best quarterback in football during that stretch. He had a down year. I'm going to sort of assume that he's closer to what he is at his best than what he was last year. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but, that does dock him a little bit. I believe I had him at second last year. I did drop him to third this year. Again, 15th in terms of PFF grade, 11th in terms of passer rating. The offense still was awesome last year, so you have that going for it. It was the best offense in terms of points per drive, so maybe the statistics, aren't that concerning, but I would say some of that was beating up on bad competition for sure. But again, there's value in that. I mean, if you can beat up on bad competition, that's good because it can avoid these upsets, right? You think about that Steelers game, it's he just dominated in a way. I mean, got off to a slow start for sure, but once he got going, he just dominated in a very similar way to what Josh Allen did. Let's not forget Mahomes outdueled Josh Allen in that playoff game and then played very well for the first half against the Bengals and then didn't play well in the second half. But, I'm still willing to give Mahomes the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to bet on Mahomes, not against him. Number 2, give me Tom Brady, who was second in PFF grade, 8th in terms of passer rating, but I would still stay a little bit about the passer rating stuff. There was an element of luck that went against him last year, I thought. I thought that the 8 is a bit misleading in my opinion, but again, that's why I think passer rating can be kind of a tough stat. Not a bad stat, but just doesn't always tell the whole story. I thought Brady was incredible last year. I thought that he was such an important part of that offense, which I think got a bit overrated around him. I think a lot of people talked about how, he had Mike Evans, he had Chris Godwin, he had Antonio Brown, he had Rob Gronkowski. Except for Mike Evans, everyone else was out of the lineup for a decent chunk of last year. You look at the PFF grades that the receiving core had for Tampa Bay, it was, it wasn't even top 10 last year. So the offensive line was very good. So that definitely helped Brady. And, Brady can't move around like some of these other guys, but he gets his value in other ways. He is still the smartest quarterback in football right now, and I think that he still has the arm talent to do it. So I have him at number 2, and, again, the guy who led the league in, passing touchdowns, passing yards. I know who cares about those stats, but, it's a huge part of the Buccaneers' offense is kind of one of the real interesting things, even at such an old age. And number 1, give me the reigning back-to-back MVP, Aaron Rodgers, 4th in PFF grade, 1st in passer rating, and also the PFF grade, big chunk of that was, that Saints game week 1. He got crushed by the Saints week 1. Other than that, again, the way I view it is, who do I think is the best, heading into next season? Who would I want for 1 year? Give me A-Rod. I do trust what he can do. He still is such an incredible athlete. Him, like Brady, knows how to get guys open without having to make these playmaking stuff. He is a very smart player, but Rodgers, unlike Brady, has that ability still to at least move around a little. He's not what he once was, but he definitely can move. Definitely still has the arm talent, and again, did a great job with that offense. Now, you could argue Matt LaFleur schemed stuff up for him, and that existed to some degree for sure, but again, everyone has help, right? Brady had, a lot of talent and had guys get schemed up. Patrick Mahomes has Andy Reid scheming stuff up for him. Deshaun Watson had no help, but, the recent ones, they all had help to some degree. So Aaron Rodgers, I don't hold that against him whatsoever. He's an incredible football player. You can't, even if you don't like him, you can't take that away from him. He is my pick for the best quarterback in football as of today. So yeah, that's what I think. I'm sure none of you will have any questions or concerns in the comments below. I'm sure that won't happen. Let me know. Let's argue in the comments below. It's always fun. Let me know. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.